All right. And then at 29, the Lions take Xavier Legette.
It's your guy there.
Pounding the table for that one.
Lukas and Mel Kiper shaking hands finally at
Hold
last.
on.
For one smell, you can get the pass.
Let me see who. Okay, so Mims went to 30. That's why I feel like that's kind of low form, but hey, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then at 31, Roger Rosengarten, offensive tackle, who actually no, I have heard good things about him. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's moving up draft boards, so I'm not completely shocked. And then Adonai Mitchell goes to the Chiefs. So
wow,
I like that for the Chiefs too.
Yeah, I do too.
Joey doesn't like Legette.
What?
I just hate.
Why don't you like it? Tell me.
I hate it. I think you're overdrafting Xavier Legette.
Maybe he's not a first round draft pick. Maybe that's it. I'm starting to fall. I was thinking about this on my drive home today. I'm starting to fall on the terms to where I want an edge rusher in the first round that can be on the other side of Hutch, because that's probably the best one you'll get, whether you move up or not. And then in that second round pick, if Legette drops, or if Brad really likes Xavier Legette and they love him, make a move up in the second round like you did last year, like how you went and moved up for Brian Branch. And if he falls a little bit, go get him if you love him that much. They met with him. They also met with Brian Thomas. But to me, it's at 29. I feel like you can get, unless like a Brian Thomas drops or something like that, I feel like just get Darius Robinson or move up and go get Latu, or get someone that can like instantly on that defensive line make that defense the next level. Because there are so many, just like Jeff Risden said, like, think about this wide receiver draft class, fellas. Jeff, you did your mock draft. Was it you, I think, that got Jalen Polk? I loved that. That's someone that can come in and compete right away and compete for snaps. So I love Xavier Legette, though. I'm going to throw that out there. I do like it. Reminds me of
I still like him, and I kind of agree. I think if I'm going to take like a wide receiver in the first round, at that point, I would try and trade up for a Brian Thomas or something like that. I think there's only a select few wide receivers that I would actually waste that first round pick on. And I don't think Xavier Legette is one of them, especially when you can probably get him a little bit later, maybe trade down with one of your second or third round picks and kind of get him. But I don't think he has first round value. But Lukas, you take the stand.
Well, hold on. Let me say what I think, and then because Lukas, I know how well you're going to feel, so I want to go first, and then you can give your rebuttal. No, you're good, baby. This is where I'm frustrated. Okay, I'll tell you why, Lukas. Maybe you can help me through this. All right. So when I first saw this, I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, Xavier Legette at 29. Okay, interesting, right? We just saw the video of him in his accent that no one actually predicted. It was kind of funny. And we like Xavier Legette, the player. But we always say this, and I've been saying this when we talk about Josh Reynolds. This wide receiver class is so deep, so deep. There's a handful of guys that I would prefer later than the first round. Now, I don't know who was available in the specific mock draft when the Lions picked. I'd have to go back and dig more, because it's not about, who would you take instead of Xavier Legette? I just don't like the thought of taking Xavier Legette at 29 when you could take a wide receiver in the second round and get comparable value, I think, for a player. For example, if you take Xavier Legette at 29, Lukas, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Sam Laporta, you have Jameson Williams, who everyone expects to have a big year. Where does Xavier Legette fit in? Is he a guy that, you're going to throw up? He's going to get a jump ball or two and make some plays but again, he's going to be your wide receiver 3. You're drafting that at 29. At least Jahmyr Gibbs came in, started right away. Jack Campbell eventually started. Like, that's where I'm at with Xavier. Like, I just don't think for the value at 29, you're getting a player that can come in and be what Xavier Legette should be, given the weapons you currently have. I'd rather have a Malachi Corley later in the round. There's so many wide receivers I love Xavier Legette, but not at 29, Lukas. I just think this is a scenario where you could sit back and be like, let Brad cook a little bit and take one, somewhere in the second, third round, maybe even later. That's how I feel about it.
No, I mean, I can't say that any of you guys are wrong for saying that's a little too early for Xavier Legette. But if you're looking at this draft and you see that there's no trades, if you're there and you know that Brad likes doing best player available, what are you going to say? Darius Robinson overall is a better player than Xavier Legette? And I'm not going to say that you guys are incorrect, but do you guys agree with that?
I would argue that Darius Robinson would make more of an immediate impact.
A team need.
Yeah,
Like he'll
more
come on and he'll make an
positional
impact
value.
right away.
Which I agree, but I think, and this is how I look at it as far as this pick. Darius Robinson, I don't, and not a knock, I'm just trying to be real. Darius Robinson, I don't ever see him have defensive end one potential. Xavier Legette has wide receiver one potential. And if you're looking into the future of this team, and you even look at Seattle last year, they have Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and they just added JSN. They didn't add JSN to be the wide receiver 3. They know that Tyler Lockett is probably going to be leaving, and DK gets hurt a lot. You look at the Detroit Lions. Jamison Williams hurt a lot. You don't know his future, and you just can say the same thing about Josh Reynolds, and Donovan Peoples-Jones is here on a one-year deal. So when you look at Xavier Legette here at 29, and you could still go in the second round and move up for Darius Robinson as well. But if you look, he adds another layer to this offense, which you need in the NFC title game, because you look at Josh Reynolds, that layer wasn't there during that game when it could have been. Over the middle of the field, Josh Reynolds struggled. That's where Xavier Legette can flourish. Like 2 seconds, and if I'm back, I'll keep going.
You're
but
good.
If not,
You're back.
You're good.
I'm going to be.
No, you're back.
And
I don't think he hears us. You hear us? You're back. I don't think he hears us.
Yeah.
You're back, brother.
I just take him
back,
off
brother.
that before he says
Hey.
something.
Yeah.
I think Xavier Legette just.
Can
I think he just
we
put him
take
out
him
of
off
his
if he
misery.
can't talk?
I
Yeah,
think
take him.
I think Xavier Legette put him out of his misery. To be honest with
Yeah.
you.
And I say, okay, Jeff, I'm actually with you on this because, like, to Lucas's point, and I'll use it against him a little bit to where if you're looking like Legette does have maybe some wide receiver one potential, right? And Darius Robinson doesn't have defensive end one potential. Maybe he does, but let's just go off of that, right? You don't need a defensive end number. You don't need like a star. You have Aiden Hutchinson. That's what you have Hutch for. And on the other side of the ball, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who right now is going to get the most targets. He's going to be your go-to guy. That's going to be like your Tyreek Hill, who's going to go out there and get 10 plus targets a game. And he's going to go out there and like, that's going to be your dude. To me, the more need that you like, the biggest need outside of like, if you're going to say, would you rather have this or that, a guy with wide receiver one potential or defensive end one potential? I would rather go after a guy in the first round who it's like, you can get a very good number 2 on your defensive line, like very good, an elite guy. That's your number 2 instead of saying, hey, we need to track down a number 1. Because obviously that's like the Latu, the Jared Verse, Dallas Turner. That's what those guys are. If you can't get those, but you can still get that defensive line that much better, you already have a top 5 offense in the NFL. I get that point, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. To where if you do add another wide receiver in the second, third round, you're still adding value to your offense to help replace the Josh Reynolds and kind of add that a Jalen Polk or just different guys out there, a Luke McCaffrey, whoever it is. It's just I think you could do it that way because I think Darius Robinson's he's going to be better than a guy you can get in a defensive end in the second or third round. Vice versa with the receiver, you can still go get a receiver in the second, third round and have production.
And I know
and you still signed Marcus Davenport for 1 year, so you're kind of still looking to address that position, maybe get someone behind him. And I think Darius Robinson would be the perfect fit. I mean, obviously, there are a few edges that are better than him, but if you got him that late at 29, I feel like it's a hit. And then his positional value, like defensive edges, are far harder to come by than wide receivers. And Jeff, you already pointed it out, the depth of all the wide receivers in this draft. So I think if there's a defensive edge there that you like, you kind of take him and then you address the wide receiver after that.
Yeah, like I think the point that Lucas made, which is what would align with Brad Holmes' thinking when you look at a player and you look at their ceiling and you look at the best player available. Like Xavier Legette could be that for Brad Holmes. Like he might be like, he's the best player available. But my problem with that is, will Xavier Legette ever be a number 1 wide receiver with this team?
Probably not. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So that's the thing when I look at when you're taking a player and the upside, and again, if Brad thinks he's the best player on the board, then he's going to do that. But how I'm imagining it for Brad is, and maybe I'm off base here, but you look at Darius Robinson, you look at the upside, he if he is the player you believe in and what he can be, he'll come and start right on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. And, that's a guy that, again, he's going to help you win playoff games and help you chase the Super Bowl. So that's where I'm at. Even if Xavier Legette's really good, he's going to be your wide receiver. I mean, Jamison should be your number 2, given where you drafted him, given the expectations. Xavier's going to come in and be your number 3. Like, it's just, and DPJ can fill that role. So I would rather take a wide receiver second, third round, somebody that, again, has got potential. Brad found Amon the fourth. They found Cooper Kupp in LA late in the draft. Like he's very good at identifying wide receivers. If you want to bring up Antoine Green, well, he was a freaking 7th round pick. I don't think that applies always, but it just happens a lot in the NFL, man. You could find wide receivers. It's this league nowadays, how the rules have changed. It benefits wide receivers. They can come in and be productive immediately. And I just don't think Xavier Legette's that. Brian Thomas is different because of his just ability. I can talk myself into that. But I just think drafting an edge or, I mean, really a corner, anything else. I mean, I wouldn't go Xavier Legette at 29. I'd rather have
edge rusher's the number one.
And then you can go off. I just think, like, obviously wide receiver, you mentioned, we brought it up how many times, there's depth in the draft. You don't want to go into your later round picks, be scrambling to address the edge position. I think, and you already brought it up, Brad Holmes has an eye for wide receivers in the late rounds. That seems way more of a likely scenario that he's going to abide by, picking out of those wide receivers rather than picking out of a group of a bunch of random edge rushers in the 3rd round. And you never know what those guys are going to pan out. You would probably want to address it by, grabbing more of the proven 1st rounder guys. And then, like you said, just trust his judgment with those wide receivers.
That's to me, and I know we were talking best player available, and that's exactly kind of what Brad, and he's done that. Like we saw Jahmyr Gibbs last year, even when you had some needs on the team. But to me, a little bit, it's the edge position so important, and I think Brad knows that as well. Like you've seen him in free agency address positions that are important, and I know that's free agency. He wants to address the holes, and in the draft he gets best players. I just think like if a Darius Robinson's there, they met with him. It came out that both sides loved each other. If he's there at 29, and they know, hey, Edge is in very big need on the other side of Hutch because we want Hutch to be successful as well. I don't see how you pass up a guy that reports came out they both love. He's sitting there at 29, a guy who's projected at some points 24, 25, 26, and he drops you at 29. I know he's fell a little bit. That's just to me where it's like you just have to do it. I'm sure Darius Robinson's at the top of their board right now, or those reports wouldn't have came out. So Ryan in the chat, it just makes sense. That pick makes sense. Now, if Darius goes and Chop goes, and I know I'm not a big fan of Chop, but all of these edges go before 29, and you're sitting there and these top edges aren't there anymore, get Xavier Legette. Go get your wide receiver. Go get best player available at that point, and then we can address the edge in the 2nd round. What's his name? Trice or whatever his name. Like, there's just different guys you can address that they've met with as well. I still think that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell found a guy that they really love, or else they would have really gone after the edge in the free agency outside of who they already did. I truly believe that. I think that at the top of their board, they have a couple edge rushers that is at the top best player available of their board, and they're like, we want those guys, or else they would have addressed it.
Do you think like they're playing with the wide? Sorry to interrupt you, Booner. Like they're playing with the wide receiver. Obviously, you mentioned they talked to Brian Thomas and they talked to Xavier. Do you think like the plan might be if you can't get a Brian Thomas, then you kind of fall back on Xavier, or like that's what they were hoping to? Maybe Xavier slips to one of their later picks if they can't grab a guy like Brian Thomas in the 1st round.
This is the thing with like the Brian.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Brian Thomas, I think would be great. I mean, you could the thing about Xavier Legette, and I think we all agree we like Xavier Legette. I think I know Mel typed it out and he had some great information on it. I do think the fit with the Lions, it does make a lot of sense. He also put in here that he's listed at 6'3", but he's about 6'1", so that's a fun fact. I thought he was much bigger, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he plays bigger than what he is. I don't know. Like if Brad's idea going into the draft is like, hey, we're going to make our strength even stronger and take another wide receiver. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to trust him, look at his resume, but I don't know. I just don't know if Xavier Legette will ever hit his peak in Detroit. Like, I think a Darius Robinson will have a slot to go right into and where he can flourish. I don't know how much Xavier Legette can do the same thing.
Can I ask you guys a quick question? If they don't address that in the first couple rounds, are you comfortable going into next year with a late round draft edge, Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, Kaminsky?
No.
I'm not comfortable with that.
That's
like if
problem.
You pull up the depth chart, people in the chat, if you're saying no edge in the first round, pull up the depth chart and go look at the depth at the edge right now. it's a little more concerning than you would think. And again, it's not like I trust Brad, everything. It's concerning though. Like just look at there's names on there you probably don't even know.
I think when everyone's seeing the Davenport signing, and then obviously you got Reader to plug up the middle, everyone was expecting that you were going to draft an edge, and probably they were expecting you were going to draft one with your first or second pick, so you kind of get a guy in the room. I don't think it benefits your defense to add a late round defensive edge, and then you pick up Marcus Davenport, and then you look at the defensive edge room, and it's damn near the same as last year talent-wise.
Well, unless there's a scenario where, because you do got a interesting group of guys there. You got Houston, now Davenport. Pascal's kind of a guy you can use. He can be a defensive tackle. He can play multiple positions. He's mainly an edge at this point. It depends. If they have faith that Josh Pascal can take a jump, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but they know those players better than we do. If they think, hey, we're confident in Houston getting back from injury, Davenport, we like our defensive line just as a whole, maybe they do say, you know what? Take a wide out. Take a wide receiver. I mean, I can see this. I can see the scenario too, in which they do this. I mean,
they did that last summer.
Gibbs. I mean, they took Jameer Gibbs
last summer. They literally said last summer, we have faith in the guys that we have in the room. We have faith in the Akor brothers. We have faith in Pascal.
That was before
we have faith in Charles Harris. And guess where that happened? So like, and I do know James Houston got hurt, so that put a little damper on the whole situation on the season. But they went into last season saying, hey, we have faith in these guys in the room. That's why we didn't address it. That was literally on a press conference. We didn't address it because we have faith in who's in the room. Did they have bets?
Hey,
I don't know if 4 times
people
now.
Are hyping up Matthew
Can't
Betts.
lean on that,
Like,
gassing them up, man.
Hey, excuse me. They have bets too, Booner. They got Matt.
Who was the first guy to really go all in on bets? That was me.
This guy.
Hold up that film quick.